Hey guys, welcome back to Critical African Thinkers. As you know, this is a place where we examine everything under the microscope of logic to ascertain what is most factual and logically consistent. So today we're going to be having kind of a brief discussion, a 30 minutes discussion on the topic, the problem with Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Russell Brand's conversion to Christianity, right? So as a Christian, right, I should be excited by this news. I should be excited by the fact that more people are converting to Christianity. I should be excited by the fact that such important cultural figures or icons on the global stage are converting to Christianity. But their conversion sort of leave me with some sense of unease, and I just want to try to explain why I feel that way, right? Why I feel that sense of unease instead of the sort of elation that I should be feeling when something like this is happening. But before we go into that conversation, if you're just joining the stream, like, share, and subscribe. Funny enough, YouTube decided to demonetize my channel. Well, not that I was earning anything substantial to begin with, but if you'd like to support, please go over to Patreon. You can support me on Patreon. The link to my Patreon is on the in the description of this video, and you can also check out my novel, my crime fiction novel on Amazon. I'm just going to share my screen. So my crime fiction novel, Hotel Shendam. So it's a novel that it features an interesting conversation on race, on colonialism, and all that interesting stuff, right? But the main theme of it is that it's a crime thriller. So if you like crime thrillers, please go and check it out. And also my recently published collection of poems called Fairy Tales, right? So it's live, or it's available for pre-order, but it will be live on the 1st of June. So if you'd like to do that too, please check that out as well. And the link are all in the description of this video. So let's get back to the conversation, right? So the topic of conversation, the problem with Hayan Hersey and Russell's brand's conversion to Christianity. Like I said earlier, as a Christian, I should be excited. I mean, part of what it means to be a Christian is for you to get other people to come to the faith. You want other people to accept Christianity as the one true religion. You want them to become Christians, right? So why then do I feel this sort of unease? And I think I can boil it down to a couple of things, which I will try to explain later with some of the videos that I'm going to play, and just try to take take us through the thought process why I think I'm feeling this way that I'm feeling, right? I feel this sense of unease because I think that their conversion is sort of reactionary rather than genuine. I don't, I may be wrong. It's possible that I'm wrong. It's possible that their conversion is genuine, that they've genuinely found God, they've genuinely found faith, that they've genuinely found, the Christian religion to be the best religion for them. It's very, very possible. But in a sense, I think it's reactionary. I think they are using it as a weapon or a tool against the threat of Islam, right? Now, as someone who lives in a country that is almost 50% Muslim, I can't say for a fact that I understand I understand some of the downsides of the Islamic religion. I'm not saying it's all bad, but I can understand why someone might want to be wary, right? However, I don't think that that should be the driving force behind why someone would want to adopt a Christian religion. I don't think that should be a compelling reason why someone would want to adopt the Christian religion. So for these people, I think that they're looking at Christianity as synonymous with Western civilization. They love Western civilization. They love Western ideas. I love Western civilization as well. I love Western ideals. I think there is a lot of I think that Western civilization has done a lot of good. There's been tremendous good from it, and I think it should be preserved, right? Um, Now, these people think that a way to preserve Western civilization is for it to be, to become more Christian, right? To be, yeah, Christianity, I mean, Western civilization has some of its roots in Christianity. However, as a religious person, I think that that delineation should be there, the separation of church and state, right? I think that they should stand on their own. The ideals of Western civilization should stand on its own, independently of whether the people are Christian or not. And the ideals of Christianity should stand, whether Western civilization falls tomorrow or not. Christianity should still stand. It should still remain, right? And as a religious person, I'm able to make that delineation, right? I'm able to make that separation and say, you know what? Yeah, I believe in these liberal ideals. I also believe in my faith. But there is a, if there is a, how will I put it? If there is the conflict between those two, I'm going to default to my faith, right? I'm going to default to my faith. But these guys, are they going to do that? Are they going to default to their faith when there's a conflict between, say, their faith and Western civilization? I don't think so. I think they're going to default to Western civilization. So that's where I think the difference is, right? So I think that their conversion, it's more of a, you know, more of a political conversion rather than a spiritual one. And I'm going to highlight this with a video that Ayaan Hirsi Ali, an interview she did with Unheard. But before then, in 2023, she wrote this article on why I'm now a Christian, right? She wrote that article on why, explaining why she became a Christian. And it was very interesting to note that at the title of the article, she wrote that atheism can't equip us for civilizational warfare. So, right off the bat, you see that this is a political stance, right? What sort of civilization warfare are you looking at? And why should Christianity be the weapon for you to fight this sort of civilizational warfare? So it just rings, all those bells just keeps ringing in my head that, okay, this may have very little to do with this person adopting this faith. It may have everything to do with the politics of it. What religion is uh, most closely aligned with Western civilization that they love? It's Christianity. So it has to be Christianity. But I think that's as a religious person, I think that's a wrong way to go about it. Anyway, so I'll share that interview. I'll share that interview and we'll take it out from there. Yeah. So here we go.
That secular liberalism that you fell in love with, part of what you've been writing, not just in the most recent essay, but generally, is that you're worried that it's not enough at a cultural level to compete with things like Islam or other cultures that still have very strong kind of calls to our soul. Is it that
if you are a KDP low content publisher and you want to have months like this, and this, then one thing you
that we should no longer believe in Western liberalism, or is it an and question rather than either or?
It's very much and. I think it's very much an acceptance of classical liberalism, but equally socialism, by the way. These are products of this Judeo-Christian tradition. There have been all of these debates within Christianity about tolerance and how much scientific inquiry and how far do we go that, the human rights and where does that stop. These are all children. The Enlightenment is a child of these Judeo-Christian traditions. And I think you have to.
So, right off the bat, you can see that, the way the question was framed in the sense of, oh, are you converting because you are thinking that, atheism is not sufficient to fight against the bulwark of Islam and all that. And then she brings it down to, oh, they are Judeo-Christian values that need to be preserved. The Enlightenment being a product of Judeo-Christian values, talking about science, talking about liberalism. But I think we need to put all of these things in a particular context, and we need to put it in a particular time period, because in the quote unquote golden age of Islam was a great preserver. It was a great vehicle for a lot of scientific innovation. So if we were speaking in that age, we probably would have been saying that it was the Christian religion that was, against progress, was against scientific progress, was against. So you've got to ask yourself, why is Islam the way it is currently? Is it because it is inherently that bad, or maybe there's some other things that are going on. I am not making, I'm not making any um I'm not holding forth for Islam, right? But I think this black and white dichotomy of, oh, the Judeo-Christian civilization or Judeo-Christian values leads to this and Islam leads to the other. I think it's a wrong way of looking at these things, right? And the three religions have a whole lot in common, right? Some want to classify them as the Abrahamic faith, right? I don't like all those classifications. I think they are just as separate as each other, right? I don't even like the term Judeo-Christian. I think Christian is different. Christian values are different from Jewish values. Some they can be similar, but they're not exactly the same things, right? So, but this alliance, this current alliance, current Judeo-Christian alliance, which is a very recent alliance, because if you go far back in very recent history, you will see that Christian Europe was very, very hostile to Jewish people, right? So to think that for them to say that, oh, these days is some sort of Judeo-Christian alliance is just a very, very recent phenomenon, right?
Have to recognize that, because otherwise you're literally cutting off the fruits. There was, when I was at ARC, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, one of the participants said that Western civilization risks becoming a cut flower. And I think that's what we don't want. We don't want to pretend, I don't want to pretend that all of these great things, the nation states, the universities, all of these economic advances, military advances, that somehow they just came floating along with the Enlightenment. I think the Enlightenment is a product of that. And Tom Holland, who also writes for Unhad, in his book Dominion, I think has done a very detailed historical background without hiding the negative stuff, without hiding the bad stuff. Where, how these things are linked. And I think we've been asking the wrong question. Can you prove that there is a God?
Okay, so before we go into that, right? Now, this exchange here just reinforces my thinking, right? This is more a political conversion than a spiritual one, right? She wants to preserve Western civilization, and she thinks that the best way to do that is to adopt Christianity or Christian values. There is nothing wrong with that per se. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that approach. But I'm just saying from a spiritual perspective, from a religious perspective, I mean, if God wanted you to convert to Christianity, right? If Christ wanted you to convert to Christianity, He's not going to He's not going to be putting it in terms of well, we need to preserve Western civilization. That's a compelling reason why. No, it has to be something personal. It has to be something about your belief. It has to be something about your salvation. It has to be something much more substantive, right? It has to be something to say, you know what, I have this personal conviction. I think I believe in the afterlife. I think, a lot of Christian, hope really doesn't lie in this world. Like, we know this world is messed up. We know this world can never be perfect, despite the best intention of man. We know this world will never be perfect, and we're looking on to that new world. In the next world, we would have all the perfection, we'll have all the glories that have been promised, right? So, in a way, these guys are almost anti-Christian in the sense that they want to create that perfection, they want to create that paradise on earth right now, which is not possible. That's God's prerogative. Only God can make that happen, right? So Western civilization is seen as a very close approximation of that, paradise or that ideal, which is not supposed to be so, right? So again, I don't think what she's doing is wrong. I think if she wants to preserve Western civilization, I think that is a very good thing to do, right? But I think someone like Dawkins is much more honest about his position, right? He says he's a cultural Christian, and I understand what he means by that. He says, oh, he likes to hear the church bells, and he doesn't want to hear the Muslim call to prayer and all that. I understand what he's saying. He's not deluding himself into saying that because I want to preserve Western civilization, I have now become a Christian, not because I have some personal conviction. So, in a sense, I'm thinking that these people might be wrong, are deluding themselves into thinking that they are now Christians instead of the fact that just because they want to preserve Western civilization, that's why they are becoming Christians, not because of some, personal conviction.
And I'm not sure that that's the right question. If the question was asked, it was answered to the degree that you have people who ended that debate with, let's agree to disagree. Even that stance in itself is very Christian and very Western. That's not how it ends in Islam. Let's agree to disagree. You don't believe in you don't believe in God, give me your head. And so that's, I think, where, and I think we sort of achieved that, and I think it's a pinnacle. And the next stage now is to preserve it for the next generation, to transmit it to the immigrants who have chosen with their feet to come here.
So what does that mean? I'm just thinking practically. I mean, you've campaigned almost over the years for secular schools to keep the...
So the funny thing is that Western ideals are not exactly synonymous with Christian ideals. Now, I mean, I could list a couple of things where Western ideals is contradictory to Christian ideals. What happens in that situation? If I would ask Ayaan, what happens when there is a conflict, right? Take something like abortion, for example. In the liberal Western order, abortion is something that should be available to any woman for any reason, right? That she wants to. But that's fundamentally anti-Christian. If she's faced with that choice, what would she do, right? Would she say, "No, I'm going to go with my Christian faith. I'm going to go with the Western ideal," right? And there's so many other things that are not exactly the same. They're not exactly the same. So what do you do?
To keep faith and schooling separate. Does this mean that in the schooling system, in our education system, there should be a reintroduction of these kind of Judeo-Christian ideas, or how do you think it applies practically?
Yeah, so I do apologize for, I said when I was a member of parliament in the Netherlands, I said, I think that Muslim schools should be abolished. I was put in charge of the integration, the assimilation portfolio, and I thought, well, if they're going to Muslim schools and they're being Hamazified, they're not going to integrate into Dutch society. And not only that, but they're also going to be left behind. So you're giving them arguments to be deprived and to be excluded. So I wanted Muslim schools to be closed. I still want Muslim schools to be closed, but I was very much mistaken about Christian schools. And Christian schools here and in the Netherlands and everywhere, these are the schools that are churning out kids who are balanced and happy and well-established and responsible citizens. So I don't think Christian schools should be shut.
So I think that, religious teaching should be left to parents. Religious teaching should be left to society. I don't think schools should have anything to do with the faith of children, right? Now, I understand where she's coming from. I get where she's coming from, right? But should it be the place of school? No, I think it should be the place of church. I think it should be the place of parents, right? To instill religious values on their children, on their kids, right? To give them the moral center, religious wise, that they need, right? It becomes a slippery slope when you start infusing that into schools, into government, into now the delineation, the distinction between church and state becomes very, very, very thin. The line becomes blurred. And what happens when fundamentalist Christians, yes, they are fundamentalist Christians, when they get a hold of the political machinery, they're just going to ram down, their fundamentalist beliefs. And even if it is not fundamentalist Christian belief, I think that Christianity, it's a matter of voluntary association, it's a matter of conversion, rather than using political apparatus to get people to, believe in Christian ideals. Yeah. So
I think Islamic schools should be shut.
So if there's someone watching this who then writes on the comments that it's a double standard,
Yes.
how can she say we should close Islamic schools but not Christian schools? What should we write back underneath for you?
It is more than it's a double standard, but it's more than a double standard. There is a higher standard. And it's that higher standard that has brought all of those Muslims to come here and establish themselves here. And because that standard is higher, that's the standard we would like to maintain and upkeep. And I think we should stop being shy and inhibited and very coy about who we are and who we have to thank for all of these successes.
So then the message, I suppose, is that you are still a liberal as well as a Christian. Is that fair?
That's very much fair, and say that liberalism is rooted in Christianity.
A lot of people were also questioning what appeared to be a more of a sort of practical way of making your faith decisions. That was very discussed. I mean, the article has been read many hundreds of thousands of times already since Friday, and no doubt will continue to be. But I did notice that as a common response, which is, it felt like a justification or a discussion of Christianity as a mechanism to resist cultural collapse almost. Mm-hmm. And there was not so much of a personal journey, not so much about your own faith. Is there anything that you would expand on there?
So I think that, the interviewer just got to the heart of what exactly my contention with her conversion has been. And I would really love to hear her answer on this, right? If her declaration of her conversion to Christianity was more from a political angle, is there something personal about this? Is there a personal conviction, a moral conviction that has made her to convert, right? I would be glad to hear that side of her conversion, which would really matter more to me than this political stuff. I'd be glad to hear that she has found more meaning, she has found more purpose in the Christian faith, right? I'll be glad to find out that, she's found comfort in the Christian faith, that she believes in a higher power, right? That she believes in the afterlife, that she believes in, those wonderful things that we Christians believe in. I'll be happy to hear all that, because I think those speak more to, her salvation than this anti-woke fight, anti-Islam fight, civilizational fight, and all those sort of things. Yeah.
It's so the reason why I can. First of all, you have, a limit on the number of words that you want to publish on her. And I'm expanding this into a book, but yes, there's a very personal story. I don't know to what extent it's useful, but on a very personal level, I went through.
I think that's the most useful part of your conversion, right? I think the personal story is the most useful part of your conversion to Christianity. Okay, maybe she's just still coming up as a Christian, so she might really not understand all that, right? I think that should be primary, that should be front and center. The political stuff can be an added advantage, it can be an add-on, but your personal journey to embracing the Christian faith, that is the most important. I mean, if you go to church and people are, asking you to, give your life to Christ and all those other things, they're not going to be asking you your political affiliations or you doing this for politics. No, they're not going to be asking you all that. It has to be some personal conviction. So I think that should be the front and center reason of why you converted in the first place.
Through a period of crisis, very personal crisis of fear, anxiety, depression. I went to the best therapists money can pay. I think they gave me an explanation of some of the things that I was struggling with, but I continued to have this big spiritual hole or need, as you call it. I tried to self-medicate. I tried to sedate myself. I drank enough alcohol you could use to sterilize a hospital. It would not, nothing helped. I continued to read, books on psychiatry and the brain, and none of that helped. All of that explained a small piece of the puzzle, but there was still something that I was missing. And then I think it was one therapist who said to me early this year, I think, Ayaan, you're spiritually bankrupt. And at that point, I was in a place where I had sort of given up hope. I was in this place of darkness, and I thought, well, what the hell? I'm going to open myself to that and see, asked her, what are you talking about? And we started talking about faith and a belief in God. And I explained to her that the God I grew up with was a horror show. He created you to punish you and frightened you. And, as a girl and as a woman, you're just a piece of trash. And so I said to her, I explained to her why I didn't believe in God, and more than that, why I actually hated God. And then she asked me to design my own God. And she said, if you had the power to, attribute a higher power, if you had the power to make your own God, what would you do? And as I was going on, I thought, yeah, right. That's actually a description of Jesus Christ and Christianity at its best. And so instead of inventing yet another new God, I started diving into that story. And so far, my husband and I went about, both of us saying we're atheists, and now I like this story. I explore it, and the more I look at it, the more, I don't want to say I'm fulfilled, but I feel I no longer have this need, this void, I have to say, and I feel like I'm going somewhere.
So now for me, I find this more, yeah, even if I'll take issues with one or two things, but I find this more compelling. I find this more interesting. I find this a better reason to convert, right? She felt morally bankrupt, or spiritually bankrupt, not morally bankrupt. She felt a void, right? She felt a spiritual void in her, and she was trying to fill that void. She's had terrible experiences with religion before, so she'd written off religion, right? But she found something that could fill that void, something religious that could fill that void without the baggages of the sort of religion that she's had before. And I think it's a journey for her, right? I think, and I think, and I hope that she comes out a good Christian. I hope that she comes out a better Christian, right? But I just hope that she doesn't weaponize her Christianity in, to fight a civilizational warfare, right? And it's the same thing with people who are championing sort of Christian nationalism. And that's so oxymoronic. Christianity is not a national religion. It's a global religion, right? It transcends national borders. It transcends ethnicities. It transcends everything that you can think of. There is no boundaries with Christianity. So when people say, "Oh, Christian, you're a Christian nationalist," and I'm like, that's literally doesn't exist. It literally cannot exist, right? Yeah. So for Ayaan, I think I get a better sense of where she's coming from now. I mean, there are two angles to her conversion. There was the personal part, and then there's the other part. I don't know for now which is the primary, but it seemed like the political part is the primary reason why she converted. I do hope that with time, I think the personal conviction should take a more importance in her conversion. Now, the other person I wanted to talk about was I'm not going to show any video of him, Russell Brand, right? Russell Brand. My problem with Russell Brand is that he's kind of his type of conversion is a conversion of Christianity of good feelings, right? Of trying to mix it with this mysticism of just good feelings, like good feelings, and like that's not what Christianity is about. It's not a place for you to come to feel good about yourself, right? It's actually a place of introspection. It's actually a place for you to grow spiritually, and it's going to be tough, right? It doesn't mean that all your problems are going to go away. No, problems are not going to go away, but it's going to give you a framework for understanding, and it's going to give you a it's going to give you tools to be able to deal with the pressures of life. It's going to give you tools to be able to deal with the challenges that you are going to face as a Christian, right? And it's going to give you hope that even if you are not able to achieve everything in this world, or you're not able to surmount every challenge in this world, that there's hope for the world to come. There's hope for a better world, right? So it's going to give you all that. It's going to, but I don't see that. It's almost like the sort of Christians who are so this these very earthly focused, wealth driven, prosperity preaching kind of Christians that want all their reward here, now, and well, it's not exactly how it is or how it's supposed to be, right? So that's just my thoughts on this. I didn't want the stream to be more than 30 minutes, and it's 30 minutes already. So yeah, Asta, thank you very much for coming. Asta says many religious folks use their religion as a tool too. Yeah, that does happen, but I just hope that it doesn't happen in the situation. So thank you very much, guys. Those who watch later on, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in another live stream. It's bye for now.